Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you're watching this video, you probably want to find out how to replace the water pump. Well, today I'm going to show you how to replace your water pump in your car. It's not too complicated. You just need a basic set of tools and some coolant. I got the tools right over there, and I'll show you up close what you'll need in just a second. Right, so here I laid out everything that I'll need for this job. Sorry if the audio quality is a little bit bad. It is a little bit windy outside. I'm doing this outside, as you can tell. So what you'll need, well, first of all, you will be taking the coolant out of your car, so you need something to drain the coolant in. So I got this drain tank right here. Next, you're going to need your water pump, of course, and make sure that if you replace a water pump, you also get new gaskets. You never want to reuse old gaskets. If you have them exposed, you might as well replace them. You're going to need about 2 gallons of coolant, although chances are you won't need all of it, but you'll definitely need more than one. And I also have this additive here to the coolant, which helps it cool the engine and keep it nice and clean. You'll also need your floor jack, because you will need to lift the car up, because the drain plug for the coolant is usually somewhere under the car. You will need the jack stands because you do not want to keep your car standing on the lift. You actually want to put it on jack stands so it's nice and stable. And you will also need a basic set of socket wrenches. Nothing too fancy. I got this. You'll need something to open the drain plug, so I got this channel lock here. It should get the job done. Later, once you got everything back on, you might want to use this to pour the new coolant in. That way you'll have a much less chance of getting coolant all over the engine and getting the engine more dirty than it will get while this job. And trust me, it will get dirty. Now, one thing you want to be sure of is when you're doing the water pump change, you want cold coolant. You do not want your engine to be hot after just driving it, because since you're going to be working with the coolant, it's going to be very hot, and if you get it on you, you're going to end up burning yourself. So you definitely want to do it on a cold engine. If you're not sure if your coolant is already cold enough, maybe you already drove the car earlier today, all you got to do is put the key in, turn it, and right there I got my coolant temperature gauge, and it's showing me, I haven't driven the car at all, so my coolant is at 75 degrees, which is more than cool enough to work with. Okay, so now that we know that the coolant is cool enough to work with and I can work on the car, the first thing that I'm going to do is remove the air ducts from the intake, because that's going to be in the way of me removing the water pump. It's super easy to do it in this car. All I gotta do is remove the clamps. I've already removed that one. All I gotta do is loosen the second clamp, disconnect the sensors. You can use the screwdriver to help you pry this. There we go. And then just pry it off of here. Sometimes you can use it, if it's hard to take off, you can use the screwdriver to help you get it off like this. And I'll just move it out of the way right here. Easy as that. Okay, so now that we got the air duct off, the next thing we got to do is lift the car and start draining the coolant. And while the coolant is draining, I can work on the other things like taking off the belt, which is something we'll need to do. Now, with this being a Corvette, it's got very low front end clearance, and even this low profile jack that's about 2 feet long still has sometimes trouble reaching the frame to lift the whole front of the car up. So what I have to do is I have to jack each side one by one, put it on the jack stand. So let's do that. Okay, so that's the front of the car jacked up. As you can see, the lift is over there, and the car is being supported by jack stands on both sides. And one thing you want to make sure when you set up the jack stands is that you're putting them where the frame of the car is, because that's the hardest part of the car, so that's the best part of the car that can support its own weight. Now that we got the car jacked up, we got to get this drain pan under there. But first, let's open this, because that's where all the fluid is going to go in. And we got to get this, put the drain pan under there, and drain the coolant. Okay, so as you can see, I opened the drain plug for the coolant, which is in my radiator. It's right above there. I got the drain tank right here, and we're gonna let all the coolant drain out of the car. While the coolant drains from the car, we're gonna go back up top and do a few things. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the drive belt. Now, in this car, you have a tensioner, which is actually this, and that tightens up the belt and keeps it from falling off. So what you need to do for this car, you need a 15mm socket wrench. You got to put it on the tensioner, and you got to take the tension off by pushing on it, and that allows you to slip the belt right off of it. Once the belt is off the tensioner, you can just let it go. And now you can focus on removing the belt by taking it off the pulleys one by one. It is a little tight in this area right here between the power steering pump and the ABS module, but you just gotta work your way through it, sort of bend the belt with your hand, and then you can easily pull it out. And that's the belt out. We'll just put it right here. Next thing I'm going to want to do is remove the tensioner pulley, because it's bolted into the water pump through these two bolts right here. They're also 15mm, and at the same time it's going to give me a much clearer area to remove the 3 bolts on this side that are holding the water pump. Okay, so now that we got the tensioner pulley off, that gives us a lot better access to the 3 bolts right here that are holding the water pump on this side. There's 3 more on that side, which we're going to get to next. Next thing we're going to want to do is remove the throttle body. That's going to give us better access to the 3 bolts on that side. So let's loosen the hoses first. We already got a lot of the coolant out, and there's always going to be some coolant in the engine, even once everything seems to have drained out the drain plug. So you will get coolant on the engine anyway when you take the water pump off. So it's going to be fine if I take these hoses off and some coolant gets on the engine. Okay, so now that I got all the hoses from the throttle body disconnected and all the wires, I can unscrew the throttle body, which is held by 3 bolts. One which is right here on the top, a second one which is right there in the corner, and the third one which is right there. Okay, so the bolt heads for the throttle body are these little hex screws. I'm not sure of the size, but they're relatively small in terms of the size. That's one loose. Let's make sure I can loosen the other two. It's 2 loose, and the third one is somewhere in there, very hard to see. Okay, so I had to take my camera off of my head to actually lean my head far enough in to see the third bolt. But all I did was unscrew 1 bolt here, 1 bolt here, and 1 bolt there, and then the whole throttle body came off. That was it. Okay, so we're almost ready to remove the water pump. There's just one more thing we got to do before we do it, and that is to disconnect all the radiator, coolant hoses, and heater hoses that are coming into the water pump before we actually take it off. Okay, so I got this hose off, and man, was it hard to get off. Even after you drain the coolant, there might still be some coolant left in the hoses, so if it spills, it's okay, don't worry about it. You're gonna have to get your car or engine probably cleaned after this anyway. Now let's remove these 3. You can see there was still some coolant in the thermostat, but that's okay. Like I said, you will have some coolant coming out or staying in the car even after it seems to have all drained from the plug. Now I did get some coolant on the ground from the hoses as it leaked down because I had my tray there, so I moved the drain tank up there because now that's where most of the coolant is actually going to come out once I unscrew the water pump. So now that we have everything disconnected, we got all the hoses disconnected from the water pump, which are these 4. We can finally take off the water pump. So it's held on by 6 bolts, 3 on this side and 3 on that side. Very easy to get to. Nothing anymore is really in my way, so let's take it off. Okay, so here is the old water pump. It's taken off. As you can see, the paint is like literally like just stripped off from the belt being here. This is the original water pump, and this car does have 96,000 miles, so it is about time to replace it. But you can see just how worn out this water pump is. From the inside, you had the two gaskets which went here, and I got new ones right there. Never reuse your old gaskets when you're replacing a part. If you're taking the part off, you might as well replace the gaskets, because you do not want to have a brand new part, all nice, brand new, but then your old gaskets start leaking and you got to take that new part off again. So we got new gaskets for this water pump. And yeah, this is what the engine bay of a C5 Corvette looks like if it doesn't have a water pump. As you can see, it's very wet down there because, like I said, even if you drain the coolant from the drain plug, there will be coolant left in the engine and in the system. So when I pulled the water pump off, that's when all the rest of the coolant really came off. So you can see how the pulleys and everything is all wet with coolant. But like I said, that's gonna happen. There's no way to avoid it, and all you're gonna have to do is just get your car's engine cleaned up once you get this done. Okay, so the next thing we could do, because you do not want to forget this, now that we got all the coolant out of the car, the water pump off, we want to get back under the car and close that drain plug, because the last thing you want to do is get a brand new water pump in, get all the hoses connected, get everything connected, then you start pouring the coolant in, and all of it comes out the bottom. You do not want that. So let's close that drain plug next. Okay, so I closed the drain plug using this channel lock. The drain plug is round with like a little flat pin sticking out, so all you do is grab it with a channel lock and you twist it. That's all there is to it. But now we've hit a problem. I've only got one GoPro battery, which is in this camera, and it's at 2% right now. It's currently around 7:30 p.m. and it's going to start getting dark in about an hour. But I have to go upstairs back into my house and charge my GoPro battery. The thing is, by the time it charges, it's going to get dark. Now, I do not want to you know, put back the water pump without recording it for you guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the car right here. It's not like anyone's gonna take it without a water pump. And I'll load up my camera and we'll finish the second part of this tomorrow. Hey guys, so we're back with part 2. This is day 2. I'm back from work. We can finish the water pump install. I stored everything here in this trunk overnight. So now let's get everything I need unpacked and let's continue right where we left off. Okay, so I got everything I need for now out of the trunk. I got the old water pump, the new water pump. I got all the tools I need. I got my socket wrenches right there. I got the throttle body. And here we have the old water pump. You can see actually how dirty right here and black it is. And that's all like dirt sticking to coolant that built up over here. And that coolant leak actually came from the throttle body. So the C5 has a hose coming in and out of the throttle body for the coolant, and that's to keep the coolant flowing through the throttle body so it doesn't freeze up during the winter time. And as you can see, I got a silicone hose here, which I bought actually as a set. I bought a whole radiator hose, silicone hose kit, and half of them ended up leaking, so I ended up replacing all of them except the lower radiator hose, which I took out of the car, but I will replace it. I have the replacement, and I will need to replace this one because this is the one that's causing this entire mess here, as you can see, and that's where all the coolant came out of and made the water pump dirty. Also, here we have the old gaskets from the old water pump. You can see they're a little bit worn out, but as I said before, you do not want to reuse your old gaskets if you're replacing a part like this. So I got new ones right here. So now I only need this old water pump for one more thing, and that is to take the thermostat housing off of this water pump and put it onto this one. So let's do that first. Okay, so the thermostat housing bolts, there's just 2 bolts here holding it in place, and it's a 10 mil, which I got right here. So let's take it off right now. Here we have the thermostat. Now we don't need this anymore. This can go right into the garbage. Now let's remove this little cover right here, or these, actually let's remove these 2 bolts which are right here. It's nice that the water pump came with new bolts for the thermostat housing. Okay, there we go. So I got 2 new bolts actually to use with the thermostat housing, which means I don't have to use my old ones, which is always nice. It's always nice to have new bolts. It's always a little bit less rusted, easier to put on. So let's make sure this is clean, and let's put the thermostat housing back on. Now actually, before I put on this thermostat onto the new water pump, I did buy a new O-ring seal for the thermostat housing, which goes right around here. So like I said, if you're taking a part off, you might as well replace the gasket. So I'm going to take this out right now and replace it. So now we got a little bit of an issue, and that is that this thermostat fits into this water pump, no problem, but it doesn't fit into this one. This doesn't go into here. This opening is smaller. So now what I'm gonna have to do is figure out where I can get a new thermostat quickly to put into this water pump. Right, as you can see, I had to get a brand new thermostat. The reason being, GM at some point decided to redesign the water pump, and with the redesigned water pump it had a smaller thermostat opening. Now with my car being one of the first production years of the C5 and it had the original water pump, it was the old design. So I also had the old design thermostat for the bigger opening. So when I ordered this water pump, it's the redesigned one, smaller opening. I had to get the redesigned thermostat also. So now that we got it, I got it on here already. All I gotta do is tighten it down, so let's do that. Right, so the next thing is to get these gaskets to stick to the water pump. Now the problem is they don't have any bracket they go into, they just simply gotta be on this, like that. There's nothing holding them. So the hardest part really is getting these gaskets to stick. So what I got is I got a little bit of super glue, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little dab right in this spot and right in this spot, and then I'm going to align it, and it's going to stick, so when I actually put the water pump on the car, it's not going to fall off. Okay, so I got both gaskets on the water pump. They seem to be sticking well for now, which, you know, enough that I need. Now what we need to do is get the water pump back into the car. Right, so I got the new water pump in. The gaskets still seem to be in place. It doesn't look like I've lost any. So now the next thing to do is I'm going to put the throttle body back on. And one thing I also replaced while I had the throttle body off was the throttle body seal, which is this orange thing right here. So I have the new seal in. All that's left, let's put the new throttle body right back on.
In the sky, gazing far into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Right, so the throttle body is now back on, and the reason why I didn't get the footage of it is because just like before when I had to take it off, I had to take the GoPro off of my head to squeeze my head in there to see that third bolt where it goes. But it was basically the same concept as with the water pump. I started tightening all the screws, which are just 3, and then I tightened them little by little, not one at a time completely. So this one's tight, that one over there is tight, that one's tight, the throttle body is set. Now, next step is connecting everything back to the way it was.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Okay, so I got all the hoses now connected back except the lower radiator hose. Like I said before in the video, I might have said it, I don't remember anymore, but if you remember, I had a red radiator hose right here, and that was bad. I needed to have to get it replaced. But the problem with that is you cannot access the clamp on the bottom, which is right there, unless you jack the car up. So I wanted to just wait until I do the water pump replacement and get it done now. So now that I got the car jacked up, I got the old hose off, I'm gonna put this one on. But since I'm gonna be under the car, I won't be able to record much, so it's gonna be the same thing as I did with all the hoses. You just simply put it on and then tighten up the clamp. That's all there is to it. So I'm gonna go down there and do that, and I'll see you in 3, 2, 1. Right, so I got the hose, the lower radiator hose, connected right there under. While I was under the car, I also double checked to make sure that my coolant drain plug was nice inside, which it was. So now what I have to do is take that lower radiator hose and connect it to the thermostat using this clamp. That is a really tight fit. Okay, this is gonna take a while, so I'll conserve my battery and I'll just do that. But all I'm gonna be doing off camera is pretty much just this for the next 2 minutes. Right, so I got that hose on, I got the clamp tight. It took me about 3 minutes to slide it from about here to here. Now the next step will be to get the tension gear pulley right here back on here. Super easy, 2 bolts, 15 mils. But while I have it right here in my hands, I'm gonna make sure also that there's like no little rocks or any dirt in the pulley, because if I put the belt back on and there's some dirt in it, it could end up damaging the belt. And it looks clean, so let's put it back on. Okay, so I got the tension gear back on. Now what I'm gonna do is just real quick check the alternator and power steering pulleys the same way I did the tension gear, just to make sure there's no dirt in them or anything of the sort. And they both look like they're pretty clean, they don't have anything in them. So now what we can do next is put the air duct back on to the throttle body and to the intake. Let's do that.
Talking noise, haters' voices trying to put us down. Let them say that we don't need them, they wanna be us now. Cause when we're pumping our fists and we fired up, we get them jumping like this till we're taking off. They be hugging and kissing, you feel the love. Oh, I feel the love. Cause I know it's only good vibes when I got you next to me. I know we're gonna bring.
Right, so the next step, now that I got the air duct back on, is put the belt back on. And I got a brand new belt, so let's put the belt back on now. Right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide the belt from this side under there, then I'm gonna go over to the other side, pull it through, then I'm gonna set it on the alternator, on the power steering pump, on the idler pulley, on the harmonic balancer, which is right there. And afterwards I'm gonna come here and put it on the tensioner. So let's do it.
Time, it's the way we always been. 'Cause I know it's only good vibes when I got you next to me. I know we're gonna bring that good time. It's the way we always been. I know it's only good vibes. I know it's only good vibes. No ego, that's how we go. Who are they to even judge? All I know is this ain't a show. You and me just having fun. 'Cause when we're pumping our fists and we fired up, we get them jumping like this till we're taking off. They be hugging and kissing. You feel.
Now that it's time to put in the coolant, I'm going to be putting it towards to this cross here. That's the level of like the coolant. That's the proper level for the coolant. But before I start pouring in the coolant, I'm gonna pour in this. It's like a water wetter, and what it does is it helps the coolant cool the engine and keep it cleaner. So we pour this in first, and then we pour in the coolant. So let's do it. Right, so my GoPro camera, guys, just as I mounted it there to record me putting the coolant in. But what I did is one very important thing that I forgot to mention earlier in this video is that this coolant is a coolant that should be mixed 50-50 with distilled water. So if you put 1 gallon of coolant in, you should put 1 gallon of distilled water. So I poured about 3/4 of each into the reservoir up until that little cross. I don't know if you can see it. Then what I did was I started the car, that let the coolant flow through the entire engine, through the radiator, get all settled in, and then after that the level of the coolant dropped. And then I just topped it off, once again with 50-50% mix, coolant and distilled water. So we got that done and the car is done. So this is pretty much how you replace a water pump in a 98 Corvette. We got the right amount of coolant, there's no leaks, it's good to go. Hit that like button if you like this video, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys next time. Deuces.